What up, Super Fun Force? Yo, what's up, team? Takara, Tomy, Beyblade X! Alright, guys, well, I'm here to talk about Beyblade X. It has just become official in Japan. I want to go over my thoughts and my impressions. And first of all, I want to start off by saying I am super excited and hyped to get my hands on these new Beys, the stadium, obviously play it and have fun. That being said, let me start with just a few of the positives and I'll go into some of my critiques, guys. And then I want to end off on like how this might I guess, affect Hasbro, which would be very interesting. So first of all, the positives, it's kind of like I said way back in my videos, like almost maybe a year and a half ago, where I was saying the only thing that kind of bothered me about the themes of GT was how the story and the characters were based on like mythology. And I wasn't a big fan of that. I thought it was pretty lazy. You know, there's so much like mythology, fantasy fiction out there. Like they should have just made up their own characters and their own weapons. Now, as you can see here, first of all, this is a weird, I don't know, this weird commercial just looks like it's just pure craziness. I don't know who made this commercial. It's okay, but yeah, so basically, I like how this now is about kind of like using weapons, which is in a way a little bit more like original Beyblade. Now, again, I came along in the burst era, so I wasn't here during the metal gen and the plastic gen. I know about them, but I'm not like super deep into their lore and stuff. But, you know, they have like Dragoon, you know, they also have like Dranzer. This one, which I thought was cool because it just was like basic creatures, right? So here, they have a little bit of that, but as you can see, you have like Wizard Arrow, you know, Dranzer Sword, I think, right? Danzer Sword, Dranzer Sword. You have like Knight Shield, and you even have the Scythe, right? Scythe. So that already just seems like you're playing with your weapons now. You know, you're not just using like, you know, Valkyrie. Like Valkyrie is cool, but I'm like, you know, mythical Valkyrie versus, you know, mythical Perseus. It's like, well, yeah, but this is, I mean, and when I play Dynamite Battle and Burst, I kind of just look at them as, I guess, generic characters. Like, you know, Valkyrie looks like a knight with 3 swords, so it's like same thing, like Knight Sword, you know, and like, you know what I'm saying? I just kind of use my imagination. So I'm really happy that Beyblade X has kind of toned down the mythology, and I hope to keep going in this direction with like weapons and stuff like that. I also like how they call it gear sports. That's kind of interesting now. And obviously, the gears play a big role here. So the next thing I want to say is, on the plus side, it's going to be full metal, right? And here we go. We get to see all of them metal. And I think this is going to be interesting because there was a lot of fans, not a lot, but there's a good amount of people who are always like, oh, I never really played Burst because I want to play metal again. Well, let's see. Are the sales going to show that, you know, this series is also going to be amazing? I'm sure it's going to sell really well in the beginning, but I want to see if a lot of metal fans will come back and things like that, right? Now here they show the main gimmick, the gear. So here's another, I guess, I'll just start moving plus and minuses a little bit away, back and forth away from each other. So, in the stadium. So I think the gimmick is cool, but I think it's going to be actually limited. I think it's almost like it feels like a downgrade from Burst because the first thing I want to say in terms of critique is the customization at this point. I mean, it might change, but the customization at this point is very minimum. I don't know if they're ever going to get to the level of Dynamite Battle again. Dynamite Battle is just perfect, incredible, you know. And of course, I'm always going to be a fan of Burst, you know, the GT, and then the Dynamite Battle because the Beys look incredible. They're gorgeous. You can put so much imagination and creativity into designing the looks of them as well as creating, you know, competitive combos, right? Here, it's very simple, 3 parts. You just pretty much have the metal layer, which I was playing a lot of metal Beyblade, and I still want to get some more of them. But it feels like you don't have as much customization. Here you only have, it looks like, other than the layer, see you have 3. You have the layer and then the second portion, which is almost like a forged disc chassis, that has a height rating on it. And then the driver now, or the tip, I forgot what they're calling it now, it feels almost like Hasbro. It feels like a hypersphere slingshot gimmick that like it doesn't really change much. Now again, I'm sure the tips, you can even see here, the tips have a little bit difference in shape, right? A little bit more pointier, flatter, rounder, that kind of stuff. But it looks very like Hasbro plasticky, like basic. It doesn't have I feel like it doesn't have at this point the engineering and the gimmicks that, you know, we saw with, again, Burst from, you know, even from Chozy all the way up to, you know, Dynamite Battle Burst Ultimate. But I think it's really cool that maybe let's see how the players are feeling because people were like, with Dynamite Battle, they felt like, oh, it's not really, you know, made for attack types, especially in the Dynamite Battle Stadium. So they tried to play on the B33, which I think was completely, you know, off the mark. If you play with Dynamite Battles, especially like my combos, and you play with launching techniques, if you play DB in the B33, it's almost like this basically. It's just craziness. It's just a lot of blowing up, hitting walls, smashing. So you can't even really balance and take full advantage of the DB Beys in the B33 also because it's too small. They can't move around and stuff. So that was the other thing that I was correct about. Because look, even with these smaller bays, they made the stadium bigger so that they can move around more. And obviously, with the new gear mechanic that lines the stadium, they'll catch on and then they'll fling in and hit. Here's another thing I noticed. I didn't really bring this up in any of my previous videos, but it was what I was working on. And you can see this all across your your games if you play DB on the DB standard base stadium, and even all across YouTube videos, where when you also launch a specific way and hard enough, your bay will actually go around the stadium. And you know how there's two pockets, right? There's two pockets. It'll go around the stadium, and sometimes it'll hit and clip a corner of the pocket, and then slide in and smash towards the middle if there's a bay there, right? Like a stamina type. So this style, oh sorry guys, I forgot about these advertisements. Gotta get rid of these. Okay, so what I was saying is with these bays and the stadium, they basically do it for you. So that's my other thought. It's almost like easy mode, right? It's almost like an easy mode where if you're playing attack type and you just launch it, doesn't even matter where you aim it, it's gonna catch eventually, and then it'll shoot towards the center, which staminas and defensive bays kind of want to be. And you have a good chance of knocking them out, right? And then of course we see that there's different point structures here. One for a stamina win, you get 2 points if you burst it or something and hit it into one of the other pockets. And then you have the extreme finish. I think that's the 3.1. Yeah, 3.1, where there's like the wider pocket at the bottom of the stadium. If you can hit that right down the middle, that'll give you the maximum amount of points. So we're just gonna kind of, I guess we'll stop the video in a second here so I can just talk about some of it really quick. So this is what I was saying. So yeah, so and again, and I was right too, it almost looks like the Dynamite Battle Stadium, as a matter of fact. The only thing is it's like they have the two pockets like DB Stadium, but they added the wider pocket at the bottom and obviously like the gear, right? But it has that size. Now the difference too is that in the middle they have the central like lower level dish area is smaller, as you can see here. This section here is like smaller now. And what they did was they basically gave the tornado ring that gearing and stuff like that. So there you guys go. I mean, again, my impressions are still positive. It's still Beyblade, and I think the manga looks great. I want to give the story even more of a chance now. My other issue is like I got to be around DB from the whole series, so I only watched highlights of it because I didn't like the main character, sadly. And like I said, the whole mythology theme kind of turned me off. So this one, we'll see what they do. It's a little bit more about, again, Beyblade X Tower. From what I understand, the heroes want to reach the top, become again the best pro Beybladers. There's a really nice difference of characters. The main character looks kind of like Vault, but just with like red. You have a female character with an alter ego. You have like the guy with the mask, and then you have the other main character. So, because I know the guy with the red guy that looks like Vault uses the scythe, and there's another character that uses the Dranzer sword. And then the girl uses the wizard arrow, and I think her alter ego. I'm not sure who uses the knight shield, but yeah, I definitely want to follow this as like a fun manga series as well. See how it goes. Also into an anime. But yeah, there you guys go. Like I said, I'm looking forward to it. It's also nice because I think it's going to be overall, though, interesting how the sales go, because I don't feel like you need to buy like a lot of different bays. I mean, maybe buying one of each to the set, but I also feel like you could just pick and choose a few that you like, because the metal, the layers. Well, now see, these are going to be called blades again, and I feel like the GT and the DBs are better off being called energy layers. These are definitely blades. But with the metal blades, you're probably only going to need one for number one because it's metal, so it won't wear down as much, right? So when I'm collecting DB, right, I also have to keep in mind that the plastic layers wear down, as you guys have seen in my video. Like the Excalibur, they replaced the metal blade with basically more of the whole metal, or the tip being fully plastic. So that breaks, for example, and just the regular wear and tear of the plastic stuff, which same with plastic gen. And this, it's like once I get the metal blade, then I think I'm fine. Like I don't need to buy 2-3 of them because it gets worn down. I think it's just going to be cool to see it kind of, over time get slightly worn down. Again, it is metal, and there's not really much you can do as far as like recolors, right? It's just metal, so they can paint it, and that'll chip off. But it was really fun to be like, oh, I like this, recolor. Now I have, this whatever, the Prominence Phoenix, the Excalibur, Dynamite, whatever. You can get them in like 2, 3, 4 different colors. You can personalize it to the color that you like. Yeah, so I think that's great. I don't think that, they're going to do a lot of painting. We'll see, because they didn't paint a lot of the forged discs. Those were like really rare items to get. And in this case, if you paint these, like I said, they should probably chip off really quick, unless they do some really advanced, powder coating, like what they do to automobile wheels. But even then, powder coated wheels on a Lamborghini or whatever, Ferrari, those can still get, scratched and damaged. So again, it'll be interesting to see if they try to recolor and paint the metal blades on this. So there you guys go. I think it's going to be fun. They're obviously trying to promote this really heavily in Japan, because they have that battle pass, which, every time you're playing and stuff, you go, it can rank you up, collect you points, analyze data, and then there's also like ways to, collect prizes. Sad thing is that's probably not going to be in the United States. So once again, where players outside of Asia are going to have to pay more for these and just kind of do their own thing. I also feel like it's going to be funny, because finally people can't play competitively in the B33. It just wouldn't make sense, right? You have to play on this stadium, which again, I believe 100%. You have to play DB on the DB standard base stadium. You can still play it on the B33. Don't get me wrong. And it's, it can still be fun, but to get the full potential, more of an equal playing field, a good balance between attack, defense, all that stamina, you have to play on the DB stadium. And it's going to be also more interesting as time goes on. People are going to miss these stadiums. You're not going to be able to just go buy a B33 stadium. And I think that as, time goes on, people are going to look back. And the DB series especially is going to be super, super popular. People are going to get nostalgic. They're going to want that whole like mechanic of the builds, the bursting, the looks of the bays, the size of the bays, but they're not going to be able to play B33 stadiums, and they're going to eventually have to just buy DB base stadiums, which again, they're going to now understand and learn how to play better on those stadiums, and they're going to like it better than they did on the B33, which was fine up until the GT sparking transition. But once we went from sparking to DB, BU, it's like you got to play on the DB stadium, Anyways, this, and like I said, this is not going to be playable on any other stadium because of the gears. It'll be fun to see though, the DB stadiums and even older burst bays go up against these. I'm sure the DBs most of the time will just destroy these guys if you play on like regular stadiums. But I mean, whatever. They're metal, right? So who knows? But anyways, looking forward to trying this out. And like I said, I still have positive, in conclusion, positive. Aspirations to get these and play them. I'll probably be doing a lot more selective purchasing now. As far as now going back, I'm going to get even more DBs, because DBs are going to be gone soon, guys. So get your DBs while you can, and I'll always be playing that series. That's going to, from moving forward, like years and years to come, I'm always going to be going back to DB, because there's still so much potential there, so much balance, creativity. I even have, stay tuned, I have some new formats, like a competitive format that's really like the anime. It's going to be really fun. And like I said, I'll just keep playing DB and Burst and GT. I got to get some more GTs and stuff. And then finally, for Hasbro, I want to say it's going to be an interesting time, because Hasbro can possibly do these from a 1-to-1, right? Like if they just did what they did in the earlier Metal Fusion, they just maybe recast them and resell them without changing much. It's because these are almost like Hasbro Beyblades. To me, this is what a Hasbro formula was like with us. What's it called? Well, I was saying Slingshot earlier, and then the other one was Hyper Spirit, my favorite. It has that whole Hasbro gimmick written all over it. So maybe they're working together already. It's like a Hasbro Gimmicky stadium, and it has like Hasbro basic bays, just 3 parts, Hasbro plastic tips with like a unifying theme like Hypersphere and Slingshot. You just basically make variations on the same driver, because Hypersphere, they're all the same driver with some differentiation, and it still matters, right? So even here, you make every driver the same. It has a gear around it, and then just a small plastic. You just change a little bit on the plastic. Then, it's essentially just remaking the same driver over and over again. but it still has a little bit of difference to, make it perform slightly different or better or worse depending on, your combo. So again, this looks like Hasbro could maybe get back on the same page. I don't know if they would ever actually just import and rebrand the takara tomy Beys like they do in South Korea, but they could definitely, recast them in the same mold, same materials, and just resell them. So that'll be also an interesting way to see how Hasbro deals with it. But either way, that probably won't happen for at least another year or two, right? They're just now still catching up. They're doing some Pro Series within, Sparking and GT, and we're not obviously ever, I don't think, going to get every single takara tomy burst release in the Pro Series line. And who knows now at this point, will they even do Dynamite Battle? Because by the time they might want to start Dynamite Battle, this is going to be out, right? And then, I don't know, maybe they just want to shift their production to, carrying this in some way, shape, or form. So it'll be very, very interesting. So there you guys go. I want to, oh man, how much time is this video going? Sorry guys, because what are we on here? I forgot, there's one more thing I wanted to talk about. I guess I'll do it really quick. I wanted to talk about the competitive aspect of it. So another reason why I think DB is still going to be better, but this is going to be fun to discover how to play this mode, is because DB has so much to do with like launching techniques. It's not like the B33. So people who play on the B33 with rubber drivers who want to attack, the problem I think that they had with the DB Stadium was they couldn't just go back to easy mode and just be like, okay, bank flower, flower pattern launch and just flower pattern, pa, 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 and just, how to attack. In DB, you actually have to aim at different areas and you can't just play rubber drivers. I think Takara Tomy did this on purpose. The extreme driver, I've been trying it a lot. Who knows, maybe it'll change in the future. But I think the extreme driver became almost virtually useless in DB Stadium. And I think that's why there was a big pushback. And a lot of players were like, they just had their feelings hurt. So they're like, oh, don't play on the DB Stadium. It's not good for attack. Just play on B33 so they can keep using their extreme drivers. But there still are other good rubber drivers that you can use, a lot of the newer ones that can be played with. And then they gave us, so, there's like the Explosion was incredible. And even Zeal isn't an attack driver, but even with Quattro, they showed that you could still use rubber drivers. You have to just aim differently, and you also have to make sure that the rubber driver can work better with the DB Stadium than the B33 Stadium. So, with that being said, in matchup too, like some rubber drivers can be a little bit more crazy still, mobile. Some will just have more of a predictable pattern. So I'm not going to get into it, but rubber drivers still are great, I've discovered. Just a select few, like maybe half of them over the span of the burst series, while a lot of the favorites from the B33 Stadium became almost useless. So I think that was kind of where the confusion was. So and I get that. But with this, now it's like sometimes when you see the videos, when you watch this on Takara Tomy, the other issue is when you try to line up your space to shoot, there seems to be a problem there because in DB, I liked how I would say just divide the stadium in half, right? So each of you get one half to where you want to launch. But here, the stadium being kind of like asymmetrical because you need to have that gear, right? I think they're showing the gear on the top in between people. So it's like, who gets to launch closer to that? That's kind of like unfair if I want to launch on that side, but then the other players know I want to launch on that side. So I wonder how they're going to deal with that. Plus, the other thing, the last thing is, it almost seems like this is too easy. Like this is a way for them to kind of handhold people to attack. It's like, again, just launch it, and then eventually it's going to catch the gear, hit the middle. But to counter that, I just think good players have to say, well, if I'm playing defense stamina, I just try to launch and learn how to keep my bay away from the middle. Now, this still doesn't guarantee anything, but it's like, if you just keep your bay away from the middle, then the chances of you being hit by the that middle down attack is going to be reduced, greatly reduced, right? Because it just seems like when they show you the gimmick here, it's like what player would just say, oh, okay, I guess I'm going to be a sitting duck. I'm going to launch my stamina in the middle and just sit back, and I'm going to let the attacking player launch and hit me in the middle with that new, gear right here, this top area. It's like, who's going to do that, right? If you're playing a stamina bay, then you're going to try to obviously make it so it still stays away and tries to dodge and hopefully just, is able to survive any other crazy attacks. So I think that's just a big takeaway there, is the gimmick looks fine, it looks fun, but it shouldn't work technically if, you just keep your Beys out of the middle if you're defense or stamina. Other than that, when this plays attack versus attack, it's just gonna be like whoosh, I don't know. We'll see. It's gonna be fun, but we'll see. So yeah, I think the strategy all of a sudden got very much limited and downgraded. Whereas like I think DB was the height of strategy, and I think a lot of players just refuse to see that because they want to play on the B33 stadium. So yeah, I think this is just gonna maybe over time it might feel too gimmicky. So I'm wondering how that's gonna pan out. Are they gonna give us a new stadium, or again, are they gonna give us different drivers and stuff? Because the gimmicks, from what we see here, again, are very limited yet, right? There's like I don't think we're gonna have as much core gimmicks and like energy layer gimmicks. So we'll see. All right, anyway, guys. Get your pre-orders in. I'm definitely going to be grabbing those still a set of everything and bringing you more videos, but expect a lot of Dynamite battles still in the future. Don't worry, I'm going to be doing Dynamite battle videos all the time, and I'm going to start doing more GT. And, I'll still be visiting Hasbro too. Hasbro is still, with Hypersphere especially, is really fun, and I might even break those down into like Slingshot and other stuff and whatnot. So, well, thanks so much if you guys made it all the way through. There's a lot here to package, unpackage, so I'm definitely interested in your guys' comments. But I'll do follow-up videos and maybe kind of touch on this when the actual product is in my hands. I can talk more about this and see how I was right or whatever, or need to adjust my impressions on launching and then the strategies and all that. So we'll see, guys. All right. Well, thanks so much for hanging out. Don't forget to keep your face, say a prayer, spread that love, be positive, be thankful. We're coming back at you. Peace.
Recording stopped.